So if you watched my tutorial on the layers, you got a brief introduction to layer masks, but I want to go over it in a little bit more detail now. Okay, so I want you to remember, I'm going to go back to my Essentials workspace. Yeah, okay, I'm in Essentials, Reset Essentials, close this one up. I've got more room here. I do want you to have your layers panel out. So let's pull that one out. And I think I can make this bigger. So go to panel options here. Okay, I should have done that before. Okay. So I want you to remember the expression black conceals, white reveals. So in Photoshop, there are three ways, at least three ways, to do the exact same thing. So we're going to add a layer mask to the lion. So first of all, let's rename this layer just by double-clicking on it. We could go up here to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All. So white reveals, black conceals. Let's do a hide all. So this would be a black mask and everything disappears. So we see the checkerboard, meaning it's completely transparent. This has been completely non-destructive. We haven't damaged any pixels or anything. We're just hiding the pixels. Now let's do a Command Z. If you do a show all or a reveal, layer mask reveal, it's just going to be white. Nothing's going to change. Command Z. Now, you also have a button down here to create a mask. And if you just click and create a regular mask, it's going to be a reveal all. Command Z, hold down the option and click, and you get a hide all. Command Z. Okay, let's do a reveal all. And then I want you to take your gradient tool. So take the gradient. We talked about gradients last week. And there's also a tutorial. I hope you watched it. It's actually a more interesting tutorial, I think, than what we did in class. So I'm going to go to the second option here, foreground to transparent, and make sure my foreground is black. So I'm going to hit X. Well, I got to get out of here first. So this, okay, toggle X key to black. You want to make sure that you are on the layer mask itself, and it'll be highlighted by a frame. See, if I go over here, now the image itself is active. That I would not want this and start painting with black, because I would be destructive. It would mess up my actual image. If I was working only on the mask, it's not going to do anything to my pixels. So now I'm just going to click and drag, and you're going to see what happens. And I can do it again, yeah. I will toggle, use the X key to white, and then bring it back. Let's do a hide all. So you could just do a Command I, and that will flip the black and white on your mask. And now let's take the gradient and go to the radial gradient and have white as your foreground color, because white reveals. And then I'm just going to click, and slowly, I'm looking for his eye actually. So there, her eye. Like that. Maybe the nose. Yeah. I'm going to put a new layer below Trixie, and I'll just make it black for right now, because I want to show you, this goes back to the idea of storytelling. You can turn off a mask or hide the mask by pressing the Shift key and clicking on the mask. So this is the original image. It looks like Trixie is probably in a zoo. And it's a very sort of clinical looking image, you know, kind of like an encyclopedia. And there's not much story here. But by putting the mask on, we suddenly have a lot more interesting story here. She could be in the jungle, looking out from behind bushes or something like that. In fact, we've got an image of some bushes. I'm going to open that one up, or of a jungle rather. We have the forest. Let's see what these look like. Yeah, I got the forest. I'll bring out this jungle one. So I want to bring this image into my lion. So here's my lion tab. So I'm in the move tool, and I'm just going to click in the middle of the image and drag up to the line tab and back down in, and it copies that image into the lion's image. I'll put this below. Probably going to scale this up because the scale is off. So like Command T, and I want it to be scaled up a lot. Now this would not be normally something we would do. Photoshop is resolution dependent. So if you scale it up, you're going to lose quality. So I could use a paintbrush on here and like paint this. I'm going to make sure I've just got a soft round brush. I'm going to paint with black, and I'm going to make it a little bigger, reduce the flow. I'm going to reduce the flow. Sorry, my zoom controls are in the way, and use the airbrush. And maybe make the lion, more hidden in here. I actually don't like the shape dynamics on when I'm masking. I prefer not to have it. There's a few cases where the thick and thin is okay, but usually I don't because I want to have a much softer transition and not the sharp point. Now I can toggle when I'm masking. When I'm masking, I can toggle foreground and background, so black and white. So if I toggle to white, I can bring it back. If I toggle to black, I can hide it. He would probably look better if he's, because of the scales off, if he's more foreground. Kind of like that. Okay. So let's look at how we would use layer mask on our image, on the illustration that you created, our image of Angus. So I'm going to open up mine, and you can go ahead and open up yours. I'll open up this one. Okay, so for example, with the way we did the gradients, they're very linear. The gradients are very linear, so it tends to flatten out the illustration. We're trying to create the illusion of 3D by having highlights and shadows, but the gradients are linear gradients, and they tend to flatten it out. So I'm going to look at the just at the lapel here. So I'm going to right-click. I got to get into the right tool here. Okay, so I'm going to the right lapel highlight. Now this is a layer clipping mask. So this is a type of mask. It's being masked by this layer. So only where it overlaps can we see it. But now I can add a layer mask to this one, and then I can paint on that. I'll paint on it with black, and I can shape this mask. See, like that, I can shape it so it feels a little bit more realistic. Let me go to the shoulder. Add a mask here. So same deal here. I could come in here maybe and make it a little bit more like an edge highlight. So I can go in and I can refine basically. I'm going to toggle back and forth. I find that I toggle back and forth a lot when I'm masking, and I change the size of the brush here, make that a little bit softer. So the same deal, you know, everywhere. You could go and refine the masks, the clipping mask, layer clipping mask, so it feels either more natural or more anatomical. We could make, you know, the different shading on the face and the nose and everything feel more actually like it's three-dimensional. Now, what would this mean in terms of your illustration? I'm going to make a new document here real quick and just show you. Okay, so I'm going to work on a new layer. This will be my drawing. So let's say I draw something like this, and it goes over like that, and I don't know what the heck I'm drawing. It's kind of like a brain or whatever. But let's say I wanted to clean up these areas right here. I could add a mask, and then with black. Now you could use the eraser, but I want you to get used to using not adjustment layers, but layer mask, because they are non-destructive. So whenever you're doing compositing, like knocking out the background of images and so forth, I don't want you to delete the background. I want you to use masks to hide the background, because deleting the background would be destructive and it limits your options. And we'll see more of that later when we get into actual compositing, what I mean by limiting your options. But this way you can go in, you're probably going to want to do this when you create your own illustrations, is go in and clean that up. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and go back to my pencil. And whoops, I got to go to white, and then I can clean that up. Something like that. Toggle back and forth. So forth. So we use the layer masks for compositing. We use them for cleaning up mistakes or finessing our painting and illustration. They're extremely important when we're working non-destructively, especially when we get into compositing photographs. Okay, any questions on the layer mask at this point? Let me see, there's something else I wanted to tell you. I knew there was something else. Okay, so I'm gonna dump this mask. You can just drag it to the trash. Now when I drag it to the trash, you get this. This is important. You don't want to apply it. If you apply it, I'll apply it. You see what happened is it erased the pixels. The pixels that were hidden were deleted. So we don't want to do that. That's destructive. So what I wanted to do is just delete. Now my image is not damaged. So one thing I wanted to show you is, let's say I make a selection. Let's say I just select this eye. So I'm going to use the lasso tool and just select this eye. And I want to soften, excuse me, I want to soften the edge. So I go up to Select, Modify, Feather, and I'll just add like 3 pixels of feather. And now I'm going to add the mask. So the default is, if you make a selection and then add a mask, it reveals the selected area. I'll go back. If you hold down the Option key and then add a mask, it hides the selected area. It does exactly the opposite. Now, if you've got something like this and you think that's not what I wanted, then just do Command I, and that will inverse, it'll flip the black and white. How are we doing? Any questions?
Yes, Daniel, can you show that step again about how to do the eye?
Sure. I'll dump this mask, delete it. I'm just going to use my lasso tool right now and just draw a freeform around the eye. I could have added a feather here before I started drawing, but I'll just go here again and add the feather here. And now all I do is click down here on the mask button. And if you have something selected and then you add a mask, the default is to reveal the selected area. If you have something selected and you hold down the Option key and add the mask, it hides the selected area. Okay? Now we're going to be looking at the pen tool maybe in a little bit, but let's say I wanted to knock out this background. This, because he's furry, I can do this pretty easily with the lasso. I'm just going around like this. Again, I'll add a bit of a feather. So the feather makes the edge softer, and without it, it tends to look like it's like a cutout, like a paper doll or something. So then I will just add my. Now, why this is important? See, if I've got a mask here, I can refine this edge. You can see this edge looks kind of, it could be softer. So what I could do is I could go up here to select and mask, and that opens up nothing. It should open up. There we go. A little delay there. So it opens up this interface. So in here, I'm going to go here and I'm going to look on layers. So that shows me what my actual, this is a composite, let's say. So that shows me what my actual image looks like in the Photoshop document. So I can come down here and I could smooth out. If I made a kind of a crappy selection and it was really jaggedy, you can come in here and that'll smooth it out quite a bit. And then you can feather it. Now if I feather it a lot, you're gonna see the background. So I'd feather it a bit and then I can add contrast, and that's gonna harden the edge. And then if I'm seeing background, I can shift the edge this way. And so you just go back and forth manipulating these until you get the edge you want. We'll be talking about this a lot more next week. I just wanted to give you a heads up on this. This is one reason why you do not want to delete the background. If you deleted the background, we wouldn't have the opportunity to soften this edge and you know, really fine tune it, because the pixels would be gone. But this way we've got a lot we can work with. So that's one reason I want you to use layer masks and not